Your Majesty, stand up from your throne and follow me now.
I hereby pronounce you husband and wife. And just like that, the wedding was declared. The prince was overjoyed. The villagers were stunned by the suddenness, but they dared not question the king. But beneath the celebration, something darker stirred. Chiamaka had entered the heart of the palace, the very place where her life had been unjustly taken. And now, the worst was about to happen. The next day, as the golden sun climbed into the sky, Sandra, Chiamaka in disguise, sat in the palace courtyard with the prince. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, though her face remained soft and composed. "My dear husband," she said sweetly, "I want you to give me your ATM cards so I can withdraw money whenever I need." The prince did not think twice. With a broad smile, he pulled out 2 cards from his wallet and handed them over to Sandra. "Take them, my love. Use them any time, any day. Anything you want is yours." Sandra accepted the cards with a slow smile. "Thank you, my darling." That evening, after dinner, Sandra summoned one of the palace maids, Joy. She had been quietly watching her, remembering that day when she alone had cried for Chiamaka. "Joy, come here," she called. Joy rushed in, bowing. "Yes, Your Majesty, you called me." "Yes, I did," Sandra replied gently. "I heard a story about a young girl who was stoned to death in this village for a crime she did not commit, that the king himself passed judgment without proper investigation." Joy's face darkened at the memory. "Yes, Your Majesty, it's true. She was innocent. Her name was Chiamaka. Many of us couldn't believe it, that the king could pass such a harsh sentence without proper evidence." Sandra leaned in slightly. "And I also heard that you were the only maid who wept for her." Joy blinked, startled. "Your Majesty, how do you know that?" Sandra smiled faintly. "I am just guessing. Come with me to my room. There is something I want to tell you." Without hesitation, Joy followed her. Inside the royal chambers, the air grew quiet and heavy, with something unspoken. As they entered inside, Sandra said to Joy, "Now, tell me everything about yourself." "My name is Joy. I am an orphan. I lost my parents many years ago. I fled and came to this palace. The late queen took pity on me and gave me a job as a maid. I have been here ever since." Sandra nodded slowly. "I know all of this already. I only wanted to see if you would lie to me." Joy's eyes widened in disbelief. "How did you know?" Sandra looked at her calmly and said, "Never mind." Joy stared at her, confused and slightly afraid. Sandra sat gracefully on the edge of her bed, her eyes filled with a mysterious calm as she looked at Joy. "When I heard the story of Chiamaka," she said thoughtfully, "I felt deeply for her mother. She must be suffering terribly now." "I felt for her too," Joy replied, her voice tinged with sadness. "She must be going through so much pain." Sandra turned to her with a gentle smile. "But Joy, what if I ask you to go and live with her? Take her as your mother, since you have lost your own parents. Treat her with love, and help put a smile on her face again." Joy blinked, surprised. "You will no longer work here in the palace as a maid," Sandra continued. "You will leave with your belongings and stay with her. Don't worry about money. I will provide everything you need. Just be there for her. That will be enough." Joy's eyes welled up with emotion. "That's a good idea. I will go. But what will I tell the king? He may not allow me to leave the palace." "Don't worry about the king," Sandra replied softly but firmly. "Just go. I will be the one to speak with him." Joy nodded slowly. "Okay, Your Majesty. Tomorrow morning I will go to the woman's house." Sandra stood and placed a reassuring hand on Joy's shoulder. "You are doing something beautiful, Joy, and I promise everything will make sense soon." That night, as the palace slept under the hush of moonlight, a quiet wind swept through the corridors, carrying the scent of justice, vengeance, and a soul not yet at rest. The next morning, Sandra and Joy prepared quietly. With a small bundle of Joy's belongings, the 2 women set off toward Chiamaka's mother's house. When they arrived, they found the woman sitting quietly outside, her eyes sunken from grief, her hands clasped in silent sorrow. At the sight of the two young women approaching, especially Sandra, a strange cold chill ran down her spine. Something about the elegant young lady seemed familiar, too familiar. "Who are you both?" she asked, standing slowly with uncertainty in her voice. Sandra stepped forward with a soft, reassuring smile. "My name is Sandra. I am the prince's wife, and this is Joy, a palace maid. When I got married, the prince, I heard about what happened to your daughter, Chiamaka." The woman's eyes widened slightly, and her hands trembled at the mention of her daughter's name. "So," Sandra continued gently, "I decided to bring Joy to live with you, to help fill the gap your daughter left in your life. She's a good girl, and I know she will treat you like her own mother. And please don't worry about money. I will take care of both of you." Chiamaka's mother burst into tears, her body shaking as she fell to her knees. "Thank you, your majesty, thank you so much. May the gods bless you for this kindness." Sandra bent down and helped her up, embracing her softly. She then handed Joy a heavy envelope filled with money, and another for the woman. Joy gasped quietly at the amount, her eyes wide in disbelief. "Thank you so much, your majesty," she said. "I don't know what I did to deserve this." Sandra smiled at her. "You did what no one else did. You wept for Chiamaka. That is enough." She promised to return often, then quietly turned and left for the palace. As she walked away, the wind picked up again, soft, but heavy with purpose. Chiamaka's mother and Joy stood watching her disappear down the path, both feeling that something deeper had just taken place. The next morning, Chiamaka, still in her disguised form as Sandra, the prince's wife, made her way to the neighboring village where Godwill lived, the same young man who had once shown kindness to her grieving mother. When she arrived at his compound, she found him sitting outside with his younger brother, both of them engaged in casual conversation. As she approached, Godwill stood up, sensing the presence of a stranger. "Excuse me, Godwill," Sandra said gently. "Can I talk to you?" Godwill exchanged a quick glance with his brother, then stepped aside with the elegant young woman. "Who are you, and what do you want to talk to me about?" he asked, curiosity in his voice. "My name is Sandra," she began. "Do you remember the woman whose daughter was stoned to death unjustly by order of the king?" Godwill nodded solemnly. "Yes, I remember. I went to visit her not long ago. I took some food and medication to her." "That poor woman," Sandra nodded. "I came from that village. I am the prince's wife." Godwill's expression changed, his brows furrowed, and his voice turned sharp. "Wait a minute. Are you saying you are the daughter-in-law of the same king who condemned Chiamaka to death?" Sandra raised her hands calmly. "Please calm down, Godwill. I am not the king. I am only his son's wife. When I got married to the prince and heard the tragic story, my heart broke. I knew I had to do something." Godwill listened, still wary but willing to hear her out. "I have already helped the woman," Sandra continued. "A palace maid named Joy now lives with her and treats her like a mother. But there is more I want to do. That is why I am here." She looked Godwill in the eye. "I want you to go and meet Joy. Talk to her. Get to know her. If you both fall in love, marry her. If you do, I will support your union. I will build you a house, buy you a car, and give you all the resources you need. Live with the woman, treat her like your mother. Make her smile again. In return, I will make sure you lack nothing." Godwill stood speechless for a moment, then finally said, "That's incredibly kind of you. Honestly, it's always been my desire to bring that woman into my home, but she refused. Still, I help her however I can." He paused and smiled faintly. "I will do as you said. By tomorrow morning I will go to the village and meet Joy." Sandra smiled warmly and turned to leave. "May your heart remain kind, Godwill." After she was gone, Godwill returned to his brother and told him everything. The young boy jumped with excitement. "Brother, God has remembered us today, he exclaimed. I will wake you early tomorrow so you can go meet Joy. Godwill chuckled. Apart from her offer, I have always felt drawn to that woman's pain. I wanted to help her, truly. But I do hope Joy is beautiful. I have always dreamed of marrying a beautiful woman. His brother grinned. Then maybe your dreams are finally about to come true. The next morning, Godwill set out early for Chiamaka's mother's house. As he arrived, he saw a heartwarming sight. Chiamaka's mother sitting outside with Joy, both of them smiling. Joy was animatedly telling a story, and the older woman was laughing, a sound Godwill had never heard from her before. In the past, he had always met her weary and sick, but today she looked stronger, her eyes filled with light. As Godwill approached, she looked up and smiled warmly. You are welcome, my son. Please sit down, she said, gesturing to a nearby bench. Godwill sat down, returning her smile. She turned to him with pride in her voice, introduced Joy. Meet Joy, my daughter. The prince's wife brought her to me to keep me company and fill the vacuum in my heart. And since then, she's been a true blessing to me. Godwill nodded. Yes, the prince's wife came to me too, and told me about Joy. Now I have seen her with my own eyes. Chiamaka's mother furrowed her brows thoughtfully. But wait, she said, turning to Godwill. How did she know about you? And who gave her directions to your house? Godwill paused, realizing he hadn't thought of that. Honestly, I don't know, and I did not remember to ask her. They sat in silence for a moment, all of them reflecting on the mystery. Then Godwill turned to Joy, his voice soft. Thank you, Joy, for taking such good care of her. You are truly a good girl. Joy smiled gently. You don't need to thank me. She's my mother already. Their eyes met, and in that brief exchange, something deeper stirred between them, a quiet understanding, a spark neither could ignore. Chiamaka's mother observed the moment with a knowing smile. Perhaps fate was slowly rewriting a new story, one of healing, love, and redemption. Just like that, Godwill and Joy became close friends. They laughed together, shared stories, and worked side by side to make Chiamaka's mother smile again. The old woman's home, once filled with sorrow, now echoed with laughter and warmth. One peaceful afternoon, as the three of them sat outside, enjoying the breeze and sharing jokes, Godwill suddenly turned to Joy. His tone softened, and his eyes held something deeper than usual. Joy, he said gently, will you marry me? Joy froze for a moment, her eyes wide. Chiamaka's mother gasped in surprise, her hand rising to her chest. Then, slowly, a wide smile spread across Joy's face. Yes, she said with a laugh, I will marry you. Godwill pulled her into a warm embrace, and Chiamaka's mother clapped her hands joyfully. God has remembered me, she cried. After all my pain, he has remembered me. Back in the palace, Sandra, the disguised Chiamaka, stood at the window of her royal chamber, gazing far into the distance. Though she could not be seen, she had been there in spirit, watching her mother's transformation. When she felt the genuine happiness in her mother's heart, a gentle smile crossed her lips. I promised you, mother, she whispered to the wind. I would not rest until I put a smile on your face. The next day, Sandra came to visit Joy and Chiamaka's mother. Joy ran out excitedly to welcome her. Your Majesty, she exclaimed, you won't believe it. Godwill proposed to me, and I said yes. Chiamaka's mother also smiled warmly. Yes, my dear, they are getting married. Thank you for bringing joy into our lives again. Sandra was overwhelmed with happiness. Her heart swelled at the sight of her mother's peaceful face and Joy's radiant smile. I want the wedding to take place in 2 weeks, Sandra announced. Don't worry about anything, I will sponsor everything. Tell Godwill to start informing his friends now. It will be a wedding to remember. They were all stunned and thrilled that the prince's wife would personally sponsor the wedding. Just like a dream, 2 weeks later, the wedding took place. It was a beautiful celebration, filled with laughter, music, and dancing. The entire village came to witness the union, and for the first time in a long while, Chiamaka's mother danced with joy. Sandra kept her promises. She built a beautiful house for Godwill and Joy, and even bought them a new car. The couple moved in with Chiamaka's mother, who now lived like a queen, surrounded by love and care. Sandra opened a business for Godwill. She opened a business for Joy, and they took very good care of Chiamaka's mother. One evening, as Sandra stood alone beneath the moonlight, "I have done what I came for," she said quietly. "My mother smiles again. Joy has found love. Justice has begun. Now it is time to make the king feel the pain that I felt, so that, in his next life, he will never support or practice injustice again." A chilling wind swept through the air. The final chapter of Sandra's mission was about to begin. That evening, the king sat on his throne, feeling unusually restless. Sandra entered the palace hall, her presence commanding, her eyes glowing faintly with supernatural power. "Your Majesty," she said in a calm but firm voice, "rise from your throne and follow me." Without a word, and as though under a strange enchantment, the king stood and followed her. They walked silently to the prince's chamber. Once inside, Sandra sat at the edge of the bed and looked straight into the king's eyes. "Now," she said, "touch me, as if I am not your son's wife. Let the world see what kind of king you are." The king's hands trembled. He began to move, confused and overtaken by her spell. But just then, Sandra let out a loud, piercing cry. "Help! Please, your Majesty, no! I am your daughter-in-law. What you are doing is a great abomination. Stop it!" Her voice echoed through the palace. Guards, servants, and the prince himself stormed into the room. What they saw left them horrified. The prince gasped, "Father, what are you doing? This is your son's wife." The king looked around, dazed, realizing too late what he had been led to do. Shame consumed him as the room filled with shocked silence. Word spread quickly through the village. "The king has committed an abomination. In their land, attempting to take another man's wife, especially your son's wife, is not only a moral crime but a sacred taboo." The penalty was death. The villagers gathered in the palace, their faces marked with anger and disappointment. Murmurs of outrage rippled through the crowd. "The king must be stoned to death for this abomination. He has defiled the throne and polluted our land," someone shouted. An elder stepped forward, raising his hand for silence. "From the beginning of our kingdom's history, no king has ever committed such a disgrace. For defiling our sacred traditions, he must face judgment." Without delay, the villagers seized the king. He pleaded desperately, his voice trembling. "It was not intentional. I was under a spell. I didn't know what I was doing." But no one listened to him. Just as Chiamaka had been condemned, the villagers stoned the king in the village square. His cries echoed, but justice in their eyes had to be served. When it was over, his body was dragged and thrown into the evil forest, the same fate that befell the innocent girl. 4 days later, something strange happened. Early that morning, the king's lifeless body was found, lying in the palace courtyard, untouched by decay. The forest had rejected him. This was a terrible sign. The prince was shaken, confused. He turned to Sandra with fire in his eyes. "My father's body was rejected by the forest. That means he was innocent. Sandra, is there something you are not telling me?" His voice dropped. "Who are you? I am not Sandra. I am a ghost, an angry spirit who came for justice and vengeance. I am Chiamaka, the girl your father sentenced to death." The prince stumbled backward, his hands trembling. "I never loved you," she continued. "You were only a tool, a door into the palace. I came for revenge. Now that your father is dead, bury him, the way my mother buried me." With that, her form dissolved into shadows and vanished. The prince fell to his knees, his world crumbling. He had shared his home, his heart, with a ghost. Later that day, he and the palace chiefs held a quiet burial for the disgraced king. No grand ceremony, No royal rights, just sorrow and the bitter taste of truth. And from the realm beyond, Chiamaka watched, finally at peace. And Chinello still roamed the village market as a mad woman. Her punishment was madness, one worse than death. God will and joy bloomed in their businesses, and her mother, living like a queen, God will and joy took very good care of her. And within a short time they were blessed with children, and Chiamaka's spirit was happy, and always watch over them.